Hi, my name is Beth Parker, presenting on social media and education. During this presentation, I'm going to review the two articles that were assigned to us, talk about policies, practices, and issues or concerns facing school districts, including my own, and then my thoughts about the integration of social media in schools. The first assignment that we had was to read the survey on K-12 educators and their thoughts on social networking and content sharing tools. That was a 2009 survey from the United States. It was put out by MMS Education, MCH Strategic Data, and edweb.net. They ended up with nearly 1,300 participants, 1,284, and most of those participants, the bigger majorities, when it came down to the demographics, were 75% women. Most were well experienced in education, 21 plus years experience, and came from suburban school districts, and kind of that age range of 35 to 54. This survey looked at three key areas. The first was social networking. You can see the chart there from the survey. Of the people that participated in the survey, 61 were engaged in some kind of social networking activity. They had accounts with one or more social networking sites. The one that was most popular for participants was Facebook. Librarians utilized social media or social networking sites more than any of the other two groups. And all educators primarily used it for family and friends, keeping connected with them. And then some concerns that were shared throughout the group were that there's really just not enough time and training for figuring out how to incorporate social networking into the classroom. And then privacy concerns, especially for teachers, and how to keep their personal and professional lives separate. And then district filters. The second area was content sharing. And you can see there on the chart, again from the survey, YouTube and Wikipedia were used far more in classrooms than any other content sharing tool. And then webinars were also used a lot for professional development. The third area the survey covered was with popular online activities. And the light blue section on the chart demonstrates that those people are the members of the social networking, and you can see that they participate a lot more in uploading material to online sites, participating in blogs and other types of podcasts, video games, and that sort of thing. Some conclusions from the survey found that all three groups found value in these activities and feel like it's important for the future. Some of the concerns, media specialists had struggled with some of the censorship or blocking of sites, principals always having reservations about liability and legal issues. That's something that doesn't ever stray too far from building administrators' minds. And then also teachers, how do they deal with privacy, and how do they take the time and training to figure out how to incorporate these social networking and content sharing sites into their classroom. The article that we were assigned took a look at social media as a communication tool. And so while the survey was from 2009 and a little bit dated, this article was just very recent, in the last month or so. It took a look at social media, how we use it for communicating with stakeholders in our communities, and how we also use it in their classrooms to help students better understand how to use those tools appropriately and to really get a lot of feedback and use it well for communication there. Some of the key points of the article, the author looked at intent versus perception. What's the reason that we're using social media? And then what's the perception by the community? And that can cause some problems at times. How do we reach our audience? And then what's the accessibility for the stakeholders? And a lot of that was reviewed through really the initial integration process by school districts. They might have a task force. They may use their communications director to do a lot of research at the beginning, to build that policy, to look at the legal issues or ramifications, and then to maintain the policies and sites, the social media sites, and to monitor use by others or the public. And then the article also focused on some inappropriate student use and schools' reactions through discipline. So a couple of the key points there would have been outside activities. If students are participating in drug trafficking, cyberbullying, they didn't mention explicit photos, but certainly an area that students that we see with concerns there. And then if those outside activities are having a negative disruption or safety concern on the school day. A good example for that would have been last year. I had a student of one of my students that was upset about some discipline, made several direct threats on Snapchat to other students that reported it after the weekend was over, and that student actually ended up being expelled due to the severity of those threats. So these are all issues that the author spoke about. In our school district, we have Facebook and Twitter accounts for our district and use those very well. We did go through a task force process. We went through lots of review, and we have some policies that account for the rules that are being followed by every stakeholder group, really. So staff members are not allowed to have negative portrayal of the district or of themselves because they're role models. Acceptable use policy applies to our students. And then we do have district policy that applies to our Facebook page that speaks to endorsements or not having, not allowing different public communications to be endorsements by the district, and allowing us to remove content that's not deemed fit for the site. We use social media primarily for celebrating all the great things that are happening in the district, and also for sharing important information such as a snow day or if a phone line is down in a building. We do a lot of content sharing through Google Docs and Google Classroom, getting ready to have a one-to-one initiative with Chromebooks next fall. Some of the common concerns we see in our district are with inappropriate use by students. Some of those I've already mentioned. We don't allow for Snapchat for our students, and we don't allow students to access the Wi-Fi network during our online assessment periods because of the bandwidth it takes up. We also worry about our parent-teacher organizations and other groups or teams that are representing the district or being viewed as representing the district, and whether or not what they put is appropriate on social media. We worry about academic integrity with our content sharing. We have a lot of cheating issues with Google Classrooms we've dealt with, and also copyright infringement when people post something on social media, let's say like a Disney image, that would be a copyright infringement. And then we've also been dealing with live streaming and privacy issues when that can happen. So I absolutely think that social media is important for our classrooms. I think it's part of our job as educators to teach digital citizenship besides parents. And I think it's worth the risk. I think that we can work hard to research, find out what the risks are, and then try to reasonably deal with issues as they arise, and deal, as the article said, with the behavior, not with the site. Technology is, of course, very important for college and career readiness. And something that I talk to our administrators a lot about are what is the role of technology in the future? And those 7 questions you see there are from an NPR article that listed these 7 as potential questions for interviews of teachers. And you can see there they talk about global networks, how students publish their work, and then a lot of these focus on technology in the future. So I think all of these things are really important. Thanks for sharing, and wish you well.